Okay, so this video is going to be a review of how to factor trinomials. So notice we have the equal zero, we have the trinomial, we've been doing some things with factoring, and this is just a review of how you're going to go about the process. So let's consider this first trinomial, x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals to 0. The first thing to check is that your trinomial is in fact equal to 0. And that everything I need to factor is all on one side, everything that's combined is combined. So I have my x squared, then I have my x's, and then I have any number that I have. So the next thing is to check, is there a GCF? What does GCF mean? Is there a greatest common factor? Do they have something in common that I can pull out that would make my life easier? So let's look at this. I have a 1x squared minus 5x and a plus 4. So is there a GCF? No. So there's nothing that I can factor out. No variables, no numbers. So as soon as I know there's a GCF, the first step is to make myself two parentheses. And this is where the guessing check is going to start happening. So I look at the first term and I think x squared, 1x squared. What is the only way when I multiply two numbers that I'm going to get 1? 1 and 1. And then the only way to multiply to get x squared is to have an x and an x. So I know that that has to be the first spot. But the last spot, which is a plus 4, there are a couple of different ways to get 4. I can have 1 and 4, or I can have 2 and 2. So one of these options has to work. So you have to pick one to start with. I'm going to try 2 and 2 first. So if I want 2 and 2, I'm going to put the 2 here and the other 2 here. Now when my middle term is negative and the last term is positive, that means both terms have to be the same sign. They're both negative. And now here's where the checking comes into play. You do the outer loop and the inner loop. So the outer loop would give me a negative 2x. The inner loop would give me negative 2x. And when I'm checking, what is it that I'm looking for? What should they add together? They should add together to be the middle term, which would be negative 5x. But negative 2x and negative 2x does not equal negative 5x, so that's not the correct factoring. Now, if I were to switch this 2 and this 2, would that change anything? No, so I've ruled out that 2, 2 is not the correct answer. So let's try again. I'm going to now try 1 and 4. So again, I have to check. X times negative 4, negative 4x. X times negative 1, negative 1x. And that does in fact add up to negative 5. So we found the correct factoring. As soon as you found the correct factoring, then you have to apply the 0 times factoring. So this is going to get set equal to 0. And this is going to get set equal to 0. And I'm going to add 1, so my answer is x is 1. I'm going to add 4, so my answer is x is 4. So these are the two answers. Let's try another one. 6x squared minus 3x equals negative 20. Is this equal to 0? No. So the first thing is I have a minus 20, so I need to add it over to the other side. So I'm going to rearrange it. So I have 6x squared minus 3x and 4x. And then I have plus 20 equals 0 because I added it to the other side. After you do that, the next step is to say, does it have a GCF? Because I have an even number, an even number, an even number, I automatically can divide everything by 2. So let's do that. And when I divide everything by 2, I'm going to put the 2 out in front, and then I'm going to write what's left over. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 34 divided by 2 is negative 17. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay. So I checked that it's equal to 0. I checked that this is yes, and now I just have to go and factor. So I'm going to make a 2. I'm going to make my 2 parentheses. And I'm going to start with the first spot. 3x squared. The only way to multiply to get 3x squared is 3 and a 1. So I know that that has to be there. But to get 10, I have a couple options. I have 1 and 10. I have 2 and 5. Okay? I would bet that we probably want to start with 2 and 5. So let's start with 2, 5. Again, since this middle term is negative and this last term is positive, they're both going to be negative in the middle. Now I'm going to check my loop. The outer loop, 3 times the negative 5 is negative 15. And then negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Oh, that adds to negative 17, which is our middle term. So we factored correctly on the very first try. Now all we have to do is 0 plus property. So it doesn't make any sense to set 2 equaling to 0. Any number out in front just is not an answer. It's only solving for my x's. So my answer is going to come from here, 3x minus 2 equaling 0, and the other one, x minus 5 equals 0. So this I'm going to add 2, and then divide by 3. I'm going to get 2/3 as one answer, and I'm going to add 5. I'm going to get x is 5 as the second answer. Okay, so this one had a lot of steps. You had to move it over, and then you had to factor out a GCF. Here's another one. So what's different about this problem than our previous problem? I hope you notice that it's not a trinomial, it's a binomial. There are only 2 pieces. So I cannot use this method of making 2 parentheses because that does not work with binomials. It only works when I have trinomials. So how am I going to go about doing this problem? Ask myself, is the set equal to 0? Yes. Is there a GCF? Yeah. There's actually a GCF of an x because it's only a binomial. They both have an x that I can actually pull out from the problem. And then when I divide out an x, the first one had 2, but I took 1 away. It's now just x. And then I have minus 6. Remember, I can check myself with GCF factoring as if I distribute. I should get back to where I started. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. So it should work. So this is already in factored form. So now all I have to do is the 0 prime property, where x is going to be equal to 0, and x minus 6 is going to be equal to 0. So one of my answers is 0, and the other answer is 6. This is often the easier type of factoring, but yet the hardest to recognize. Because you get into this rhythm of wanting to make 2 parentheses and trying to figure out how to factor the first term and the last term, but there's not 3 terms, so you cannot use that method. Only think GCF when you have a binomial. Alright, and the very last problem. Ooh, I see a cube in here. Immediately when I see a cube, I need to be thinking that there's got to be a GCF. And then I'm also going to check my numbers at the same time. I have a 2, a 13, and a 6. There is no common number with the 13. 2, 13, and 6 have no common number. The only thing they have in common is this x. I'm going to take that out. So when I factor out an x, I'm going to have 2x squared plus 13x plus 6 equals 0. Okay, now I'm going to try to actually factor this middle piece. So x is going to stay in front. I'm not going to lose it. And I'm going to make myself 2 parentheses. Okay? So the only way to factor 2x squared when I'm multiplying is to get a 2x and an x. And there's a couple different ways to get 6. One of the ways to get 6 is 1 and 6, and the other one is 2 and 3. Let's start with 2 and 3 and see if that gets us somewhere. Because everything is positive, I know that my factors are going to be positive. And so I'm going to try a 2 here and a 3 here, but I'm going to check that it actually works. So I'm going to check my loop. 2x times 3, 6x, 2x, 2 times x, 2x, that's going to give me 8x. Does that work? No, because I'm looking for 13. So I'm going to switch up. Now I'm going to recheck. 2 times 2, 4x. 3x times x, 3x. That's going to be 7x. So I've tried the 2 here, and I've tried the 2 here. I tried them in both spots. I can rule that out as a factor. Next, I'm going to try 1 and 6. Okay, so let's try our roots again. 2x times 6, 12x. 1 times x, 1x. 12 plus 1 is 13x. It works. So the last thing I got to do is, now that I've actually found root factors, I have to do the 0 5 property. So now I have 3 terms to set equal to 0 because I do have a variable out in front. And think about this. I started with a cube, so I should still have 3 answers. 2x plus 1 equals 0, and x plus 6 equals 0. So one of my answers, which is already solved, x is 0. The other one is going to be negative 1/2, so we subtract 1 and then divide by 2. And the other one is going to be negative